help you? Okay.
Yes, now we have to get that off the screen.
Did you do the recording in progress?
No, it's got the, this meeting is being recorded by the host or So welcome everyone, either virtually attending or in person. Nice to have you with us. We're going to begin with the public hearing on the tax cap override law, which we do every year. Would anyone like to comment, either in person or from our Zoom gathering? Rhonda.
Oh, let me unmute. I'm sorry. Hang on. Okay, girl.
I'm opposed to this. I feel you should be able to work within the budget. We all have a budget, and I haven't seen my Social Security increase at all since the beginning of the year. And I have to work within that budget, and I feel you ought to work within yours. Thank you.
Yeah, anyone else?
Is that great?
Can I
Yes,
start?
Ted.
Oh.
Yeah.
I actually agree with what Rhonda was saying, but I come to an opposite conclusion. It is a crying shame that the world is changing fast enough that there is no way that you could possibly stay within the tax cap, especially as you probably have a penalty for exceeding it last year. So I think you have to. I would be shocked if Joel's prediction from the last meeting where he said that you might be needing an 8% tax increase, that'd be shocking. But if that's even a possibility, you have to vote to exceed the tax cap. Otherwise, you will be in trouble. But I think Rhonda's right. Living within a budget is important. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Here. Okay, so let's close the public hearing. Is it the replay? Am I getting an echo? Call the meeting to order. Regular meeting of this is the first meeting of the month of October. The Danby TownBoard. Are there additions and deletions? There's one deletion. David didn't have a chance to work on the constraints on the cannabis sales and consumption, so we'll have to postpone that.
And I actually don't have my report ready. The numbers have all been run, but I didn't format it yet, so I'll submit it next.
Okay. Pull that one out too. Anything to be added or deleted besides that?
Do we want to, maybe we want to add it to the next meeting, but I think we should maybe acknowledge the sexual harassment policy since
All right.
the record,
Yeah,
the record is
right.
use.
Yes,
So we can't find it.
I'll put it on for next time.
Joel,
Yes.
I didn't see anything, and maybe when down here under business, under budget activity is where you mean it to be. Just the presentation.
I've got it at 7.1. It's under reports and presentations.
Yeah, water district tentative budget review and town-wide tentative. Okay, sorry, I didn't read the rest of the line. Go ahead. I was just wondering about the presentation of the.
That's where we put it, so it would be.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry,
Really?
I didn't read on.
Okay. Okay, anything else? not, we're good to go. Privilege of the floor. Is there anyone who'd like to address the board on any matter? I don't see anyone. Oh, wait, there's Rhonda.
We're getting back to the business of money. And I was looking at the report of the code enforcement officer, and I would like to request that the fees charged by the code enforcement officer be reworked. I think it's really unfair for someone who is putting up a $600,000 structure to be paying $400 and some dollars in fees, while someone who is putting up a $12,000 roof pays $50. The person putting up the roof is paying a disproportionately large amount of money. And it seems that there is no rhyme or reason, at least when I look at it. And even the houses don't go by value. I suppose there's some sort of little incentive for this or that, but still, I feel that a person putting up a roof should be paying a lot less and not greater than percentage than somebody putting up a house. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I guess we're good. Correspondence. FEMA sent us the revised flood map with the additions that we suggested they put in.
What were the additions that you put in?
There was the area on Weller.
The report includes the information about what was added.
I mean, I looked at the map and I didn't,
There was a printed report, it's printed report.
In the printed report, they basically say it's not on, but we'll look at it next time.
right,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so it's not on,
No,
but they'll consider it
next time, yeah,
at the next review.
yeah.
So, I mean, the update is that it's different, really.
Yeah, I think that's basically right.
It's too bad that, that one of the places in town that floods the most couldn't have gotten put onto that map. But
Yeah.
I guess that's the way they do things.
Is that your understanding, David?
That's what the report said.
David is here. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I forgot to make him co-host. I was thinking that he already was a co-host. Sorry, David.
There we go. So the map is not the same as it has been in the past. There have been additions. The draft map now is the same as the draft map we saw before, but that adds significant areas that have never been mapped before in the past. So the new map will have some significant changes, including having floodplains on Buttermilk Creek, which will affect several properties in the central Danby hamlet that will be in the 100-year floodplain that have not been.
It wasn't on the map? Last
No,
map?
no.
Huh. Thought the whole creek was.
But they did not change anything. Basically, the town didn't give input, I don't know, 3-4 years ago when they initially started. I think they had input from one town board member who said one community member whose input to them was you have to map every single creek and stream in the town, which was far outside their scope. And instead they kind of decided what they were going to look at, and they expanded the areas along the inlet and along and they added areas that had not ever been mapped before along Buttermilk Creek. Which will, just so that we're clear here, this will require people with a mortgage who live in those areas to purchase flood insurance if they have not had it before, which is a substantial cost. And it doesn't affect a lot of people, but it does affect some. And it also hopefully will allow us to be able to, one, be clear about the risk that exists there, and two, maybe access some funds to do something about it.
I didn't think being in the floodplain required you to have insurance, but
if you have a mortgage, the bank will require you to.
Require, yeah, because it makes you eligible for federal flood insurance.
Yeah. So my house, for example, I don't live in Danby. It will be in the 100-year floodplain in this new map. And I was able to get flood insurance much cheaper before, but not required. And now I will be required to, and it will be more expensive, because it's reflecting the real existing risk that's already there, that's not reflected in the current map.
Okay. There are no announcements, I don't think.
No, sorry.
Catherine, there's a Halloween event that's going to be happening, right? Is she doing washing dishes? Oh, no. I don't know if she could hear. I assume that there's going to be an event, and I think it's going to be at the fire station, but we can make sure it's put on the website.
It's still being evaluated.
Yeah, so, but it's something that we should make sure that people know about.
Well, as much as we can.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
It'll be in the next newsletter and it'll be online.
Okay, the newsletter
comes out before that.
It does, okay.
Talk about the October one?
No, November 1.
It'll be out before the October 30th.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Just
okay.
Barely, but.
Just barely,
yeah.
Right. But there's other sources. In the last newsletter I gave who to contact, and the youth program can be contacted as well.
Yeah, we can put up signs. Make sure there's something on the website. Yeah. Okay.
We have two Catherine Hunters here now. I don't know, twice the place.
hang on.
One is in the kitchen. Sorry.
Okay.
All right, reports. Well, Ben Kobe came over the hill. Could have carpooled over to Ben, but this way you don't have to hang around the rest of the meeting.
If you're ready for us. You want me to speak into the mic? What's the best
Yeah,
way
you have to, otherwise.
people clear?
Yeah. Is the mic on?
So, yeah.
Should be able to lift it up to your height. Lift.
Sorry about that. I'm Ben Coakley. I'm the chair of the West Danby Water District Advisory Committee, joined by Skip Fairchild and Merrill Courtwright from the committee. Other committee members couldn't make it. District staff couldn't make it tonight, but they've all been involved in this discussion. I'm hoping you've had a chance to look at our proposed budget. I want to go back and give you a little bit of context. Forgive me if I'm covering familiar ground here. So the district has two sources of revenue. We have, we have the tax that we apply to houses or to properties within the district, and we have the water rate at which we sell water to our ratepayers. Until last year, the water rate and the rate structure hadn't changed since the district was founded in 1968. It was a fairly complex tiered system. And so the result of that was that the water rate was not covering very much of our expenses. By last year, 60% of our revenue was coming from taxes and only 40% was coming from the water rate. So at the beginning of this year, or to start this year, we decided to change our rate structure with the goal of reducing the amount of our operating budget that came from taxes to 20% of our budget, and the other 80% being made up from the water rate. The reasoning behind this, quickly speaking, was to encourage water conservation, because people would have more control over the amount of water they used. And to place the burden on high users of water rather than highly valued properties. So at the beginning of this year, we cut the tax rate, increased the water rate, and simplified the structure of the water rate as well. It's now a flat 46 cents per 100 gallons, starting from the very first gallon you use in a quarterly billing period. The results of this have not been what we hoped. We have not seen the anticipated revenue from the water rate that we had planned on, calculated on. And so we have a significant budget shortfall as a result, which I'm sure you've seen. We don't yet have enough information about what went wrong. We don't really know why this happened yet. We've only had 2 quarterly billings at the new rate. And we don't have a good report yet as to what should have happened and what did happen and why we have this significant budget shortfall. One more piece of history. In the past, we have set aside large sums of money annually and put them in our fund balance. You may have seen this in the budget from, I think, 2018 and 2019. There were $15,000 set aside each year that went straight to the fund balance. As a result of this, and we did this for a long time, we have a fund balance of approximately $360,000, which seems like a lot. So our proposed solution to this budget shortfall is that we will make up the budget shortfall out of the fund balance for 2022 and 2023. This gives us time to wrong. It gives us time to come up with a new water rate and to discuss with our ratepayers, to seek input from our ratepayers as to the approach that they'd like to see us take. Since we already raised the rates on them significantly for this year, if we're going to do that again, we feel like we need to talk to them about it first. So that's why you see this budget with this significant use of the fund balance. Budget itself, I think, is as lean as we can practically make it. There aren't really any luxuries in there. There aren't really any nice to haves in there. This is what we think we will need to run the water district next year. There are certainly things in there that we hope not to spend. There's money set aside for repairing main breaks. If we don't have a main break, we won't spend that money. But you'll see that this year we did have a significant main break. We did have costs associated with that, and so we feel like we ought to set that aside in the budget just in case it does happen again. I think that's pretty much what I have to say. Did I miss anything important, folks? We are adding a line item for training. It's not had its own line item in the past. It's come out of I can't tell you exactly which, I'm sorry. But we do have 2 operators who need to keep their licensing current. And yeah, we'd like to be specific about what we're spending on that.
Questions?
Wow. Thank you for all the details.
Sorry, didn't mean to go on too long here.
No, no. I didn't have any questions when I looked at the budget.
The big question at the moment is what the heck happened?
Yeah,
there's a
and we're
shortfall, but we haven't figured it out.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Any guesses as to what?
No, because I mean, the projection was based on usage. We made the assumption that usage wouldn't change significantly.
All right.
Marge Seaman told us that the usage hasn't changed significantly. So how can it possibly be as short as we are if both of those facts are correct? It's not obvious.
Yeah, we need to look at hard numbers and figure out, yeah, which part of that is not meeting our expectations.
Well, it wasn't anything that we didn't pull some mathematical out of the air. We had guidance from our faculty. We had.
Yeah.
That's correct, yeah.
places we had needed to figure out how we're gonna go from there.
Yep.
So, multiple people came to the same conclusion, which just
Right.
doesn't seem to be
Make-
working
yeah.
for some, whatever reason.
Interesting puzzle.
Yeah. But fortunately, I mean, the district's in a really good position to simply say, well,
Right.
we'll take it out of the fund balance.
Yeah,
But we don't want the board thinking we're gonna ask that every year. We do know the water district has to support itself. We're just asking.
Yeah, the plan is not to spend down the fund balance forever. The plan is to figure out.
We're just asking that they could be covered to give us time to hold a public hearing or something in the summer.
All right.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, for the notes, can I just ask who was speaking?
Oh, my name is Ben Coakley.
No, not you, the one,
oh, from
one
the-
not at the mic.
The one you can't see is Merrill Courtwright from the
Okay,
District
great.
Advisory Board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you actually hear Meryl?
Not really.
Didn't think so.
Yeah.
Laura's got her hand up. Come up. Oh, she needs to be, here you go.
There, hi, you guys. I wanted to be there in person, but that sickness going through my family and me having a terrible cold, I didn't want to take any chances with anybody. But just so that from what Ben was talking about, if you're looking at your SW, your water district budget, I just wanted to show you on the pages where that would be, so that's a little bit clearer to you what you're looking at. Okay, for what he was explaining with the fund balance. If you take a look at it, and in the packet that you have, that some of the copies that I left there of this tentative budget, they're the last 3 pages. Okay, that's the water district budget. You look at the 3rd page under revenues, you're going to see that here in the revenues, the property tax in this tentative budget, the property tax is the same as the property tax the year before. Okay, so before they changed anything, they wanted to be able to look into the situation to find out what happened. But where you're going to see that, so they can make some decisions on where they want to split this out to, and then look down under account SW 599. You're going to see the $18,294, and what that is that's just your difference between expenditures and revenues and what you're going to need for this budget. So I just wanted to show you in the budget where you can look to find exactly Ben was talking about in here. And that 18,294, and I know we talked about that 15,000 every year. Geez, they did that for 6 or 7 years, maybe even longer. They put the 15,000 away. So this is one of those situations where they were putting this away, for emergency purposes and that type of thing. This isn't really an emergency, but it's something they to use it for while they're looking into this a little bit further. And they have it, and it was a good thing they did it. It's something available to them. I just wanted to point that out on your budget so you could see visually what he was talking about on that budget.
Got it. Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
And speaking of the budget, if we're done with the water district review, we
Can
have.
I ask one, how often does the tank have to be cleaned?
Once every 4 years.
4 years?
Every 4 years, we have to make that.
If you're lucky, it can be 4 or 5 years, but
Yeah.
Excuse me.
it was a new tank, so we didn't.
Right.
And then we tried to get it done last year and we couldn't get it lined up. You couldn't line up a cleaner to do it. So it ran into this year and it's taken all year to get them scheduled, but it's scheduled to happen now. In fact, it's supposed to happen this week.
Oh, good.
And you can see down in through their budget. You're looking at their, this is really their budget presentation to you, just to show you what's, you know, the increases and decreases. And there's a few increases here and there, and also the amount for training that's in there. Their contractual went up, you know, their prices have gone up. Prices have gone up on many things in the the energy, the everything. But they've come up on some of this, you know, come up on some of the salaries, but that wasn't their they didn't set that. That was something that Joel had an idea of what we should put in the tentative budget for possible increases in salaries. So we put that in there. And oh, and I just saw one other thing too. That state retirement. There isn't anybody on retirement in that water district, actually. To take that $1,250 out of there under employee benefits. And that needed to come out, that does need to come out of there, because we're not going to put that amount in there, and that'll be reallocated. So that'll come down by $1,250 from the fund balance. Sorry, I just noticed that. I didn't really want that in there.
Which line?
Employee benefit.
You're going to look at, go to under employee benefits on the second page, state retirement.
Yeah.
Nothing really got spent towards anybody in state retirement in there. So I wanted to take that out of there. So that'll just adjust that a little bit by $1,250. But you kind of have the idea of what they've got here. And it's we put a lot of thought and a lot of work and a lot into this. And
Yeah, there's a bunch of, this is for all of us, the first we've seen of this was this afternoon. So there's a bunch of tweaks that probably will get made.
Yeah.
oh, the water budget I sent out quite a long time ago.
Yeah, right.
Well, quite a long time ago here is what, a week and a half.
Well, it's been at least a week, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so it was out there, but for the water part of it anyway, so you guys could peek at it, but it's you know, it looks reasonable. Small increases here and there, and just moving some categories around a little bit is what they did.
So any questions for anybody on the water district? That's that. The overall budget, the tentative budget, hasn't been presented to us except we just first saw it this afternoon.
Right.
And I'd like Laura to sort of walk us through the main features of it now.
Okay. All righty. One of the things I wanted to point out about this budget is if you could go
Wait,
in.
before we start, if anybody wants a copy, I got it here. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so one of our main things that we look at right off the bat when we're doing a budget, and it kind of gives us a little guidance of where we think we're going to be, is we look at the assessments in the town. And you can see if you go and you look at, it's like page 3. I'm sorry, I don't have it numbered, but it's on a sheet called Assessments 2023. The assessments went up in this town by $46.8 million. Okay, there is a 13.9% increase in the assessments for between the general and the highway. All right, so that's presenting in this budget, and where our task, it's a bigger pie to split the levy out. So
What page is that on, Laura?
it's the third page in. It's right under the cover sheet where it says tentative budget. You've got a tax levy analysis, a budget rate analysis, and assessments. And
Okay, so you're on the assessments page.
Yeah, I'm on the assessments page, just pointing out that that's what happened. So when you're looking at things like tax rates and stuff like that this year, you're not really comparing apples and apples, because when the assessments take a big jump like that, you're going to see a difference where you're going to see even if you see your levy go up, which you will see your levy go up in this copy, okay, in this tentative budget, the levy's going up, but the tax rate is going down. And the way we kind of equate it in a way that makes sense is we say, what is the dollar amount per $100,000 of assessed value. And you're gonna see on here too, that that's gone down. So that's where you feel like, wow, geez, the levy went up, but how come the amount per 100,000 is not going up, or the tax rate? And it's because of the assessments that drive that calculation. So with that said, let's take a look at the tax levy analysis. And that is right after the cover sheet. It's the next page in, tax levy analysis. And that's where this tentative budget stands right now with some of the things. And we'll go through, you know, and you guys were talking about making appointments with the town clerk and the planner and the library and the highway, and to kind of going through the different areas. I'm just telling you an overall view of what it is right now. So if we look at it, our tax cap limit, our tax cap, it went up by about $71,000. So we were actually, to stay within the tax cap, we could have increased our levy by around $71,000. I think I have that. That's not the exact figure, but you got the idea, okay? This particular budget is over the tax levy limit by $134,446. You can see with the levy in the analysis at the top, the levy went up 7.5%. So it didn't quite make the 8, Ted, that Joel was talking about. Didn't quite make the 8, but it is up 7.5%, which when we go through and you see some of the increases that we had, that's not bad compared to what we were up against here, okay? So it's over the tax limit by $134,446. The overall increase in the levy is $205,917. Now keep in mind, around 100,000 of that was the extra that we would be paying in the highway department for the 3 new vehicles we just bought. So the amount of that payment is $100,000 more than what the payments were before. And that's the way we've been buying equipment here, as opposed to saving up in reserves, etc. So that's not bad. We're in a pretty good place right now, the way that it is. You know how every year I come in and say, well, if I were you guys, I told Joel I was going to say this, I'd pass this budget right now. But I can't really say that this year, because there's some assumptions that are going on in this budget. And Joel is still in negotiations with the union. He's still in negotiations with the union with salaries and with health insurance. So I can tell you a couple of the assumptions, you know, that are on here is there was a particular plan that was selected that we put in here, and it was projected some of the savings. And Joel will get into that with his negotiations when he is talking with the union and that type of thing. So you can see, if you're looking at the levy, you want to see how it broke down. The general fund, there was an increase of $60,289, and the highway $145,628. So the differences in the highway between the salaries and what went on with the reduction in the health insurance costs and some of the other things that went on in there, you know, resulted in that increase. So now let's look at the other one. It's called the budget rate analysis. It's the third one in, budget rate analysis. And this is where it'll tell you where you're at right now with this budget, okay? You're gonna see that there's a decrease in all the rates. So if you're looking at this budget rate analysis, it's right here, you're gonna see the percentage of tax rate decrease. That's what I meant when you can't compare apples to apples. You could see a tax rate change and you think, well, what does that really mean? Does that really mean that the taxes of the levies are going down? Well, it depends on what a person's assessment is if they're home, you know, and that's the assessments that are kind of made that whether someone's taxes are going to go up and down, and then of course with our levy increase. But for every $100,000 in assessment, the tax bill will decrease by $25.20 in here. within the fire district by $45.50. And within the water district, $59.90. There's differences in here because there's differences in assessments. And the things that are different in the assessments that make those figures different are the different, what's the word I want? Exemptions, the different exemptions that apply to, there's certain exemptions that will apply, veterans exemptions, for example, that will apply to taxable values in the general and highway fund that won't apply in the fire district or that won't apply in the water, either one in the special districts. So that's where this stands right now. Is it in a good place? I think this is in a really good place right now. It's just going to be a matter of finishing up the negotiations, which we have to have that done by really the 15th of October, because the 15th of October is the deadline for changing the health insurance plan. If the health insurance plan is going to be gone. So that's all going to be happening in the next couple of weeks, pretty quickly. But this really gives us something to go by, something to get started with our meetings with in the different departments. So as you're setting things up, you'll be able to see, have people come in, see the, why we increased, and we can go down through line item by line item when you set things up. So that's just kind of a quick overview. When you guys will have a chance to look at this, please call anytime. You can call me night or day. You guys all have my cell number too. So if you're looking at something and you're stumbling on a question, why did the attorney's line go up by $5,000? What's going on here to there? By the way, that is the truth. It did go up $5,000 in here. Okay, and certain increases and decreases. You'll
We were short this year again, that's why.
Yeah, that's right.
We were over budget again this year.
Yes, and then there've been some years where we've been under budget, but the last couple we've been getting right up there to it or beyond it, and
the cause was the same both times.
yeah, the cause is yeah, and so there's things that you can look at. Joel can explain, or we can, as we go through, what kind of salary increases. I don't know if you wanted me to talk about any of that kind of stuff right now, that you're in negotiations right now as you're trying to figure that through. But
well, I can mention that the highway department, as well as the crew, would like to see a meaningful bump in their compensation. We're a kind of an end of what the highway people are paid around the county, and particularly with inflation running where it is. If we want to keep our people, we need to pay them better. So I told them that I'm receptive to the idea of a meaningful bump. They asked for $5 an hour. They asked for $5 an hour over the next in each of the next 4 years, which is totally off the wall. But for once, it seemed like doesn't seem like an unreasonable thing to entertain. And I'm asking them to consider increasing the participation in health insurance. So we'll see how that goes. But if the one offsets the other to some degree, if we ask them to pay more of the health insurance, then it would reduce how much of the increase they would get to net pay. And that same, I'm going to apply that same standard to everybody else, so that the participation for everybody who has health insurance would go up to 25% from the 7% that it is now. But we give them all $2 an hour more to pay for it.
so if you were to look at someone,
For us, from our perspective, it's a wash.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and in this budget is the amount that they asked for in that raise for the highway workers. Then there's an amount for the others of the $2 an hour plus 4% of the current rate of pay. So Joel's taking, steps to help the employees too, that even though this is it always, it's inevitable that that's going to happen. The employees are going to be taking on more of the cost for their health insurance. It's inevitable. And Joel's kind of softening the blow and looking out for the town too, by doing that in a substantial step, but helping out with that extra amount of compensation that will help the employees to be able to pay for it and still bring their salaries up to help with all this inflation and this cost of living.
Part of the analysis I did for the union negotiations was looking at what's our real compensation, and our insurance is so expensive that it amounts to paying people $12 an hour just to cover the health insurance. So there's an equity issue embedded in that. It means that those who are getting health insurance are getting $12 an hour more in effect, and those who don't get health insurance.
But what I really like putting this together, Joel, is seeing that even though there were those increases in the salaries, and we took a look at how much the health insurance bill would come down. So for those couple of substantial things, plus that 100,000 for the truck, and still be just at a 7.5% increase in the levy overall, that I was kind of shocked when I put the figures together and saw that, because it was good. And even in the highway, we took pains to, I looked at every salary. This took hours and hours, which I don't care. That's not the point of it, but I just wanted to let you know how carefully we looked at everything with the fuel, how much, the fuels had doubled in cost. What the average amounts of fuel we're spending based on some of the projects we're thinking about doing and what we're going to need. And then looking at each person's salary and depending on their rate of pay, where that's going to bring them and how that's going to increase. And then we kind of dissected the lines, how much overtime per man should we really budget and make it realistic and protected. So you don't want to shave that too close. If you shave that too close, you can get into trouble. You do have to have some wiggle room in there because you never know what's going to happen with the weather, with the amount of time you're going to need the employees for overtime. So, and I don't feel it shaved down real close. I feel like it was, that it was all reasonable. I used that term when we were talking about it. All's reasonable in what we're looking at in this tentative budget. There are some things though that we do need to come down, and I think that maybe some people in some other departments might need, different things like equipment and stuff like that that maybe they hadn't indicated. And there's some things that could happen in that way, but nothing unreasonable that I could think of happening where this budget, I think, even in this tentative form, is a responsible budget. I'm an optimist when it comes to that kind of thing, especially when we've torn down numbers. It's a reasonable budget, but now it's a matter of getting in the departments and hearing some of the other needs. So that's my presentation of what we did so far.
Okay, thanks. We'll come back to this down in business, next steps and how we're going to review it. But that's the big picture.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So let's see. We have the reports, except we have a report from the town planner. David. There he is. But you're still muted though.
There we go. All right. Had a busy month and more coming. So last month at the planning board, we approved subdivision of 204 German Cross Road. heard from the start of a subdivision request at 1496 Coddington Road. That will be back before the planning board this month. As well as the site plan review for a home on that lot. And we also heard a request from Norbit Solar to adjust one of their site plan conditions. In that case, they wanted to move some existing trees that were on the lot to use as screening in the place of screening that was required. What we had originally approved was that the planning board would review the conditions after the panels were installed and use a budget supplied by the developer to decide where they like that implemented. Norbit asked the planning board for permission to waive that and instead use a bunch of trees. Now, the planning board did kind of a half and half and said, move half the trees you were planning to move and save half the budget you were planning for our review after the installation of the panels. That project has taken a lot of my time over the last few weeks. It's very near the time to start breaking ground, which may happen this week if they agree to some of the final pieces of the contract for decommissioning that's being reviewed by Guy, me, and Joel. So that's very near completion. It's also very near, perhaps not happening. They did say they were going to walk away because they didn't like some of our requirements, but they've come back. So we'll see. I think that it's pretty unlikely that would happen. Last week, I got to walk with some members of the CAC a really great potential easement, about 100 acres on Comfort Road. That would be really excellent. So hopefully those landowners continue working with us. They have moved out of state and have the parcel listed for sale, but it'd be really great to get that easement on it before that happens. Also on the list, on this agenda, you'll see that we've been working with our engineers to develop a survey about water and wastewater service and any issues people have had. So I hope we can discuss that when we get to that point in the meeting. Coming up this month, I expect to have a BZA meeting and a planning board meeting. Last month we started back in person. The board was the guinea pig at the very first group to meet in person. And I think it went well and hopefully we'll continue.
Suddenly not hearing you.
Can't hear you.
You're not hearing me.
Now we are.
Yeah.
Okay. I may have had other noises in the background. So I'm not sure what you missed, but I think that's the quick gist of my report. So chime in with questions if you have any.
Where do we leave off? Where do we miss?
Right. I'm here as you get to other items in the agenda.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ed.
I could chime in on the Norbit thing. The hang up has been the decommissioning and operating plan.
The terms.
It was always a hurry up and wait, I mean, it could have been negotiated a long time ago, but then you kind of waited until the last minute, and then it's like, can we get this done in the next week? And it's like, well, maybe, but it's been back and forth. If they just said, we're fine with what you proposed, then we'd have had it done, but they weren't, and so it's taking a little time.
I can also report that the lawsuit regarding seeker for that has been our motion to dismiss was accepted, and that is over.
It was very good to get to this morning. Now, it's part of the reason that the attorney budget is over for the year.
Right.
Thank you, David. Moving on to the consent agenda. We have the September minutes and the 3 abstracts. Are they correct as they're stated now? The abstracts, are they correct as they're currently recorded? There were a couple of questions, but I don't think they affected the numbers, right? There was only the,
I have 2 numbers.
yeah, did you?
2 account numbers.
Not,
that's all.
not the dollar values, just account number.
Yeah, the account numbers, right. It changed. It didn't change
Any of the account numbers,
the numbers, so the numbers should be
the
correct.
dollar
The
numbers.
dollar numbers, but the account numbers that they come out of,
Right.
2 of them. They were-
So, we want to
I'll move
move,
the consent agenda.
okay?
I'll second.
Leslie, can you talk into your microphone a little bit more?
No.
It
Thank
doesn't
you.
have to be that far away.
Hello?
That's better.
Okay,
Leslie moved and Pat seconded the consent agenda.
got it.
And we-
So the vote,
Yeah,
Connors,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes,
Woodworth,
Yes,
Gagnon.
yes. Okay. Business. Jeff Lang is here.
cool.
If you want to come up and use the. Sure. So that Zoom audience can hear.
Just hopefully short and sweet, because I don't know that much. My name's Jeff Lang, and I just recently got involved with this, so I don't have a lot of background. The only real background I have that was applicable to this before is after building about 50 houses spread all over the county over the last 35 years, I fought with cable companies, telephone companies, electric companies, bought and worked with too. So I have some thoughts on how to make that process function.
Before we go on, Jeff, can everybody hear okay?
Can you hear me through this mask?
Well,
You probably
Yes.
just call.
I'll get closer. I'll get a little closer to here.
No, you're good.
So anyway, and a reason over the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, I've found as things have been happening in other municipalities, presentations right here in our county. The first one was the town of Dryden. I don't know if you folks are aware, are moving forward, and they're moving forward with a pretty advanced system in terms of the goal of running fiber optic cable to every household in the county.
In this town,
In the town, excuse me,
Yeah.
and then setting up their own service provider. So they're going to have employees, equipment costs. It's a substantial undertaking,
Yeah.
but they're moving forward with it. Now they worked with Hunt Engineering, and there was a lot of information from two presentations online by Hunt Engineering, which was very useful. I was ready to come here and suggest that maybe we contact them just to get some preliminary questions answered. But it turns out that, as we just discovered last Friday, the county has already signed a contract with another consulting firm out of Rochester, the Rochester area, out of Penfield. So the county, unbeknownst to me, had moved a little bit further than I had realized.
Me too.
And Joel too. They, it seems that they already have, as I say, a contract to look into the idea of providing service one way or another to everybody and offering some alternatives. So the thing anybody here can, all of us can do, is think a little bit ahead, because there's some reasons to move rapidly on this. One is funding. That there are some public funds available, and Joel would know more about that than me. And some of that is going to come out of the what these consultants are going to be able to advise the county. And the other is simply that decisions are going to be made at the county level fairly soon. And so being involved with that seems to make a lot of sense. So I think a first step would be to contact the consultants at least, and just, somebody. And again, I have no official capacity at this point. If there's a committee formed and then I'm on it, I could at least contact them as a member of that committee. But find out where they stand. There's a bunch of questions, like I don't even know the answer to what's available in terms of a trunk line to bring it out here, who owns it, accessibility, and the capacity of it. But so Dryden is going for this really involved model of doing everything. The idea that several communities have done is, or at least are looking into, not much of it has happened yet, is the idea of installing the fiber optic cable themselves using different kinds of public monies that are available. And then there's a question of what to do with it. Rather than hand it over to some service provider, the idea of leasing it to them or franchising them, there's some options in there that seem to me to be the middle ground, and something that a smaller town like Danby could undertake. But some of this is going to involve money, and the mix of public versus private. At this point, we have no idea what that might be. The model of the electric companies, which is 90 years old since the Rural Electrification Act back in the 1930s, and that successfully ran electricity to most of the households in the country. And in some cases, they ran the poles, ran the lines, but people had to pay to hook up. That would be a model here too. Some people are off the road. Yes, it would cost them more, but to at least have the option of getting service to every location. There are other possible things. I mean, there's been discussion of, well, for one thing, the satellites. Is satellite the way to go in the future? Unfortunately, some people who were real involved with this have then now signed up with the satellites. And once you have the satellite, unlike bad internet, it bothers you every day. The satellite bothers you once a month when you write the big check. And we have no control over that. By installing and controlling a fiber optic network, the county or the town or the state, had the state chosen to do it, would have some control over what happens with that. In terms of, whereas if it's totally private, we just sit here and we're really at the mercy of the cable companies because we need them more than ever. So that's kind of just as an overview.
I could supplement that by saying that, there's a TCOG committee, which consists of Mark Whitmer, me, but invited Jeff to join us. So Jeff was actively involved when we met with Nick Hemholt last week and found out what they're up to. And one of the things that came out of that was inviting Nick to come to the next TCOG meeting end of October 27th. This is basically the same presentation. Where are they? And our meeting with him revealed that, as I said, there's a lot more going on at the county level than we were aware of. Because where I left off, and then probably where you left off, was that they had commissioned a group to do a survey of the county, kind of level information that we paid for and did in Danby. They were filling in the gaps, where they didn't have that information. They had Danby and I think they had Lansing, but they didn't have the rest of the county. Of course, Dryden didn't matter because they were going in the fiber optic direction.
And Caroline definitely has their gaps also. That's it.
Yeah, well, yes, and they already know that most of the gaps are in Caroline, Danby, and Newfield. So then the county's gone beyond that to thinking about, well, then what? And they hired this company called ECC to look at what are the options for what happens next.
I feel like this is a bit of deja vu,
Yeah.
I mean,
Rightly so. I mean,
yeah.
Well, I mean,
part of
the
why
encouraging thing was
part of why we went and spent the money to have our own survey done was because just tired of waiting.
right.
I mean, and now they've got another company involved and they're doing more studies, or are they done with their survey? Are they?
Well, they're looking beyond it. What the encouraging thing is they're looking beyond the survey data to say, well, then what? What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And they hired this other company to help them explore the options. And as Jeff alluded, there's a bunch of things. Well, there's a spectrum of possibilities running all the way from we just pay for the existing service providers to extend their lines
Right.
to reach those who aren't already covered.
Right.
And then we're essentially spending public money to extend their lines, and then they get to own it. And then
None of us like that.
Yeah, they're not too keen on that. There's these in-between options, which have, and then the other end is what Dryden is doing, where they put in a municipal fiber network that serves everybody. Some of us were disappointed that the county didn't embrace that idea from the get-go. You may recall that Anna Kellis was keen on that when she was in the legislature. And then Katie Borgella was not keen on it. She's director of planning for the county. But at this juncture, it looks like that with Nick's help here, the county is basically willing to look at the whole range of possibilities, including the possibility of the county-wide network, but also looking at these in-between possibilities of, build it out and lease it or something else, of which there are some examples already. Is it Monroe County?
Yeah, that's, I think it's the town of Penfield, but that may just be where those consultants are based. But in Monroe County, definitely there was the town of Nichols, which installed down south of us. There's all these little bits and pieces, and you find out about one, and then, but it's just kind of happening now because of the money trickling down from state and federal.
What did Penfield do? Did they put in the fiber optic?
I think all they have is a contract. I don't think that's happened yet. And in other words, this is that new, the idea of municipalities actually getting involved in doing this because everybody got tired of waiting.
Yeah.
So Mark Whitmer said, I could probably have Lee Hafley come up with a proposal that would extend service to everybody who doesn't already have it. But that doesn't, but that has, the unappealing thing about that is it has the public paying for the extensions and then they own it.
They own it, and in 5 years, they sell out to some bigger company that owes us nothing. Spectrum buys everybody and then just charges whatever they want, for example.
So a couple things that are driving costs. Interestingly, the Monroe County thing, which was going to create a fiber network, was extending service to was it 1,200?
I think it was only about 1,000 or 1,100.
About 1,100 people.
Households.
At a cost of $16 million, which worked out to about $1,500 per household, to which extension is being given. Given the rural nature of the extension, that didn't seem to be off the wall to me.
And then
they'll own this, because then they'll own the network, and there'll be revenue generating for them going forward. So if they can do it there, which is a pretty rural, and that's subsidized by a variety of different forms. Part of these USDA money, which is only available to the rural, unserved. And there's another condition that we would have a hard time meeting, which is like 95% of the unserved. And they've got areas that are like that, where there's a whole bunch of people that don't have any access at all.
Right.
And we got a couple pockets here in Danby,
Right.
that might conceivably be, that would work. But anyway, so it's all being cobbled together with, ARPA money being put in. There's the American, what do they call it? The IRA, what is that one? That was the Inflation Reduction Act, which is a bit of a misnomer, but it's got a lot of money for broadband in it as well. So those are two big pots of money that are being, working their way down through. And of course, there's always the local money. And we could do a Dryden piece together, their system with grants and bonding.
Right.
The problem we have is we have a dual objective. One is sort of a long-term objective of getting, service, improving the quality and probably the price as well. The Monroe County thing, they're looking at a $50 a month internet.
I think Dryden was as well. That was the number that I saw, the Dryden proposal.
As compared to, $75 to $100 for the internet service providers that are providing it otherwise. With greater bandwidth and, at a lower price. they were looking at, remember what the speeds were now? When it was quite a bit higher than.
Up to 10, what is it, gigabytes per second? Is it? No. 10 was the number, but I don't know that I have the correct.
Yeah. It was,
10 million.
it was something like 200 down and 10 up. Is that right? It was 50 up, wasn't it?
That I didn't have in my notes. I saw the 10.
It was quite a bit faster, and you had the option to sign for more money. You could sign up for even faster yet, you know.
And
So anyway, that's very appealing, but it's not going to happen tomorrow. That's a multi-year project to implement. So there's what do we do about those who don't have it at all now? And that's going to be part of the discussion.
And along with that discussion of what, you know, we could run cable everywhere here, but the signal has to come from somewhere. What is the story with trunk lines, rights of way, usage, costs, et cetera? And then there's also, in terms of partnerships with other municipalities or other towns in the county, isn't there a law which inhibits the ability to do something across the lines?
There is, and there's a proposal at the state level to address that.
Yeah.
But what Dryden is doing, for instance, they have to go through Caroline in order to get all the parts of Dryden, but they can't hook up the people in Caroline that they're going in that, without having the law changed to enable it. When the law changes to enable it, Dryden is interested, and Caroline is very interested in piggybacking and having parts of Caroline covered by the.
And that was something that, you know, came to mind immediately. Caroline would be the piece between us and Dryden, but if they have to have the infrastructure in terms of employees, et cetera, to maintain to have something local that, you know, the public sector has some control over, has some advantages. But I think the cable seems to be the big thing.
Yeah.
Well, the trunk line actually comes up 96 feet.
But who owns it?
I think, I'm trying to remember that Southern Tier Network or not.
Because we
I
have,
think so. Yeah.
we have Spectrum here on this side, but then Clarity's down on Michigan Hollow, correct?
The Clarity or Hakeley?
I think it's,
Well, Hickory's out south in the road. We got Clarity up on Durfee.
Do you?
yeah.
Yeah. Which is called Point Broadband, right? Which is called Point Broadband now?
Yeah.
Bartosh.
Yeah, I know that Chuck Bartosh, I talked to him at some point specifically, and he talked about going from Michigan Hollow all the way up to Bald Hill Road. And that seemed to be a backwards way to approach things. Except that it comes right near where I live.
Yeah. So don't,
Well, I have to forget about what helps me out and just look at, this is a need.
Yeah.
Just as everybody needs electricity, this is a need. And higher levels of government, it's easy to say, I mean, they can, you know, write a little law and say, here's money, but then figure out how to actually implement these things when it's such a private-public mix or a possibility of a mix, and it's not easy.
So we'll be reporting, the three of us, at the TCOG meeting, and there'll be discussion there of what next. I guess what we're proposing is that we kind of see how that goes and go from there. I hope we can have something come out of that we can bring back to this board.
I might propose that one of us touch base with the engineers directly, the consultants, just to see any background. I mean, you never know. Sometimes somebody will just give you an hour time over the phone, and you'll learn all kinds of things you wouldn't have found otherwise. To know before entering that meeting anything that we can.
If you're up for it,
I'm willing to do it.
No problem.
I'm willing to do it. I you know, again, I learned a lot from the presentation from Hunt, but now the county's going in another direction. It seems like we don't want to be fighting against that, so better to be working with it.
which we're trying to coordinate, make sure we're not duplicating effort.
Yeah. It's crazy.
The fiscal, I mean, I remember working over the money for the telephone poles, you know, I mean.
Yes.
That was a long time ago.
Yep.
Nice to get moving.
Mhm. So, I mean, I see this as progress, although it's slower than any of us would like. But
I just happened to get a hold of Joel,
Yeah.
you know, a couple
Yeah.
months ago, and just said, what's going on with this? And then he said, well, why don't you come
Yeah,
to this or
that's
that?
what you get for calling.
And there is, now there's 3 or 4 presentations out there, so each one I learn a little bit more. And hopefully, you know, I can be of some assistance to keep things
Great.
moving forward.
Well, thanks for participating.
Well, my pleasure.
yeah, thanks.
All right, I guess I'm out of here.
You don't have to hang around. You don't want
Hopefully I get to meet all of you without masks or something.
Yeah, outside. We'll have a meeting outside.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, then we cut off the cannabis thing because it got kind of beat out by the time that David had to spend working on
Yeah.
decommissioning. Next time, that fortunately is not pressing.
Not that we know of. Yeah, next time they can.
Yeah. The budget activity.
What does this mean?
Well, it means what, how do you want to handle, where do we, how do we get from here to preliminary?
We had already said we were going to have everybody that has a budget in there come and present if they want. Okay.
Yeah, we
So
didn't
we
decide
will
who's
have to
coming
have
when,
meetings.
right?
We'll have to have meetings for that.
Yeah.
I assume it cannot be only if the next, can't do everybody at the next town board meeting.
It seems unlikely.
So we're going to need another meeting.
Yep. Forgot to bring my calendar.
I mean, we decide who we're going to invite first. And I assume that we want to do first the general or the highway, because that's the biggest amount of money.
Yeah. Well, of course, embedded within general with all the groups.
Yeah, but that's different because we would necessarily like them. So I'm talking about the general, not all the groups.
Yeah, well, you know, that which is beyond just those components.
I feel like I'm more familiar with the highway since I get so much information contact. I mean, I actually never hear, I want to hear from the historian and I want to hear from the library. And maybe the park.
Right.
Sort of, I don't know that much about it. Things change.
Yeah, we have input from CSI and in the Cuba Watershed Intermunicipal Organization as far as
All those extra things, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, those I'm pretty familiar with.
Yeah. But what we don't have, it would be nice to hear from the park. I'd like to have a more detailed presentation of what they propose and what it would cost. Because what did you plug in, Laura, for the park? Did you just do a % increase for them, or?
No, I didn't plug any increase in for the park at this time. I know that when we originally had that, it was, based on, they were looking for money to help pay for insurance and for financial auditing. That was what was originally, so I left that amount the same. If they could come and see if there's any additional things that you guys, if you want to add to that figure, there's.
Did they submit a budget?
There.
Or
What is
Did we
there?
get-
What is,
Well,
I'm
you may
sorry.
recall.
Did we get a request from them?
no,
You may
We don't-
recall that we had a request after the budget last time,
Right,
where they asked for a bunch of stuff and said, well, now's not the time,
Right.
but now is the time
right.
for them to say, here's what we'd like to do.
I think I was thinking with them that I heard you guys mention that you'd have them come in. And I thought, well, maybe sooner than later with them, to see what they're thinking. So that's why I left it the same. and knew that they'd come in and talk with you guys, and we can do something with that figure from there.
And then we have both the Community Council and the Community Park Association, which have now had over a year, or coming up on a year, to deal with the fact that they're not square with the IRS. And I don't know, I think we should at least have an accounting for what's been done
Yeah, okay.
to bring themselves into compliance before we give them more money.
And I know that the town historian last year, some people felt like her, she gave us a yearly report, but some people felt like it was more of a records management report and not a historian report.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to.
What's the food pantry?
But a major part of her job is records management, and that's an important part.
It's totally different. It's separate.
It is, and that's all reasonably accounted for in the budget, but what she does as a historian is kind of in addition.
But it wasn't the records management that we wanted to report from, it was a historian.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Not that we're paying a historian a whole heck of a lot of money.
no.
And a report from the town records is useful information for the town to know.
Well, yes, sure.
Well, we did get that report anyway,
Mhm.
would get that anyway, but the historian we have missed. And we, not hired a town historian because they weren't doing that. So I'd like to see us carry on with expecting that to happen.
When,
Just a note to interrupt. You're a little bit muffled, Leslie.
Uh-oh. I want a 5-page report on the clerk's duties.
Got it.
she's a little muffled even for those of us who were in the same room. But when she's talking away from the mic,
So we need to set up another meeting.
probably. I mean, I don't think we can cover all this.
Several.
Yeah. We've got,
Yes, right.
we only have till the end of the month basically to get it together.
Close, I can do Zoom. We're probably going to Maine on Friday.
Well, that's the trouble, is that we can't do Zoom if we're going to be business.
Do you think you can do the highway and the court? You may look at things like the court or the planning or the depending on, if David or Steve, has some, and they may have some different things. Some of these and think, well, geez, we really don't need a meeting, but like there's the court. Could you do the highway, court, the town clerk, the planning and the code all in one meeting? That's pretty much everybody within the building, everybody within the staff. And then maybe have another meeting where you have others come in, community council, historian, library, park, food pantry. I don't know if you need the food pantry or not.
For private seniors.
Senior citizens.
It would be worth scheduling a meeting for that, and hopefully we can get through. If we can't get through in time, we might have to back up and have another one, but that's worth trying.
Yeah.
So
We're trying a couple of meetings to be able to get through that.
Yes. So we probably should schedule a meeting for next week. And do that for the highway and all the offices in the building.
Yeah.
We could do that.
And try, at least to get through them all.
That would be this Monday? Can't do Tuesday.
I won't be able to do Monday. Anyway, that's fine.
No.
But
Wednesday. This is where I really should have the calendar with me. Take to bring it.
Would you like me to put a calendar up?
I'll try Zoom.
No, what I need is my calendar at home. Yeah.
That I don't have.
Putting the calendar up is helpful.
Not everything
because
else, but
I can put the town calendar up, and I also have, let's see.
At least that tells what the official meetings are that we don't want to conflict with. But
Got, let's see.
we've got Tuesday meetings every Tuesday.
Yeah,
CAC, Planning Board, BZA.
right.
Let's see, month. Okay,
And then we're gonna be the third Wednesday, which is,
The Mondays after
share
that.
screen.
third, Tom.
So, is that good?
Yeah, I can't read it from here, but it's good.
Don't have to read it, you just know what.
It just doesn't know what days it is, right?
Yeah. So this is Monday,
Hmm.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So we're on this day.
Right. Normally we'd be on the day after, but we avoided that, so it's good Tuesday. Normally the Tuesdays are all booked.
Yeah.
Next week, Thursday.
Was Wednesday out of the question?
Thursday, I think, wait,
Youth program.
Yes, that's right.
Youth Commission.
5:30.
I was just gonna check the file, but I think the 13th is Youth Commission, but I need to look.
Is the Youth Commission the third Thursday?
I can't remember. I need to get up and look at it. Hold on.
You're gonna try for the 12th?
How about this week at all?
Maybe. But there's nothing there yet.
Yeah, well, it can't be tomorrow or Wednesday, so
No,
maybe Thursday.
It is October 13th.
24th.
okay.
Okay. Danby.
End of the month, you have to have everything done. We should
It'd be
meet
nice to
next
have a
week.
little bit more time to adjust it and come back to it.
Yes, we need to meet next week.
Is that at 7, Catherine?
I'm asking, I'm hoping we can do it on Zoom. It will make it better for us to have enough people there.
Okay.
So that's Thursday. How about was Wednesday okay?
Wednesday has nothing on it there. I think I have Wednesday, okay.
And I can't remember anything either. I think it's okay.
So Wednesday, the 12th, we do like high court, town clerk, planning and code.
Yeah. Basically the in-house.
Right.
Wednesday, the 12th. At what time do you think? 6 o'clock?
Might go later. But there's something to be said for staying at the same time.
It's easier to have everything at
easier to
the same
remember.
time. I don't remember if you do change it.
So court, planning, clerk,
Highway,
and highway,
yep. That's what she said.
right? And then on our regular meeting on the following week, right?
We can see what we can, at the meeting
We can
on
do-
next Thursday, we can see what we have left to do. And schedule it for the, whatever we've left can be
Well,
scheduled.
we know some of what's left to do before we meet, because all the stuff that isn't going next week is left over. Which is to say, all those groups.
Mhm.
So we could start with that and say, on the following Wednesday, we could do the DCC, DCPA, and the seniors. What about the library? Library in with the court and the planning and clerk? Because it's an in-house group, kind of.
We could do that.
About the pond,
That should be with the other groups.
What group did you say, Joel?
what about the pond swimming program?
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't know who for you to talk to about that.
I think maybe Marianne would be the one to talk to about, because she was as close as anybody to run, to how it was being run.
Yeah.
So we got the CPA, DCC, pond. If we want to, there's the seniors and there's the food pantry. There's not a whole lot there. We've been giving the seniors the same allocation for several years now. They use only a portion of it. Probably okay with just sticking with it.
I'm sorry, are we on a new day meeting?
We're talking on well, we're talking how to divide up the task between the meeting on the, what is now the 12th and the meeting on the 19th.
Okay, I got you. So okay. So the library Jennings Pond, that's all for the meeting on the 19th.
Right.
Yes. Thank you.
And, well, and the rest,
How are you gonna get that? That's town board meeting, right? You're gonna have enough time to go through all those?
I think so. Well, it depends, see how it goes.
Yeah, some of them are probably short. Okay, okay.
Those are pretty easy.
That's at the regular town board meeting, right?
And in general, yes,
In general, what?
general fund. If we covered water. We're covering highway on the 12th.
Well, these are all part of that, all the.
Well, this is why I'm thinking we could do all of general, including, these subgroups.
Yeah. We can talk about the attorney line at that point.
Anything else you
Traffic
want to?
control line.
Yeah.
That kind of, okay, yeah. Rest of general. Ooh, that's kind of hitting all of them, which is great.
It is. The only thing that's not included, and probably it might warrant its own meeting or more discussion, is putting it all together. How to adjust the budget.
Mhm. That and once we have these meetings, then we're gonna be able to really work with the numbers and really see where where we're at from other requests that people have made. We'll put it together, get it at, and then it would be great to set aside a whole meeting just for that, just to see this is where we're at. What does it look like?
Yep,
That's what I'm thinking. We need another meeting after that.
so we can schedule that at the next town board meeting.
We could do it right now.
It would be useful if we actually could check schedules beforehand.
Good point. So we can remember to bring our calendars with us next time.
We can actually do it next time. We
Yes.
don't have to wait for the next town board meeting.
We have Monday, the
Yeah,
31st.
Yeah, we have the 31st, we got the 24th. We have the
Yeah.
26th,
Yep.
are all possibilities. How come nothing on the 25th? Because there is.
Is BZA on 20? Is
Yeah,
there a
BZA is on this month.
It's on this month, so the 25th, there's a BZA meeting.
I believe.
Well, I didn't get a notice saying there wasn't one.
Well, no, but they only convene when they need to. But
Yeah.
right.
No, but usually they say.
Mhm.
There's one. Is David here?
I'm here, yes,
Is there a BZA meeting this month?
yes.
Okay,
I thought there was.
so
It just hasn't been
the
filled in on
20,
the
on the
calendar yet.
25th.
Oh, do I not have planning board and BZA on here?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Sorry, David.
18th, the next day,
18th, okay. Is planning board.
correct,
All right.
at 7.
What is on here? I can't read it from here.
What is what?
On the 18th.
And then the BZA is the 25th.
What's the,
Correct.
what does it say? You're close. Can you read it? From here,
It says there's a Jewish holiday.
from here, there's something like insert smoke trash. It doesn't have to be not.
Insert small trash.
What does it actually say?
On the 18th, it's Simchat Torah.
What?
It's celebrating the Torah.
Oh. It's not a meeting.
No,
match-
these yellow ones are holidays.
Yes.
So like
I was-
Columbus Day is here as well, or Indigenous Peoples' Day.
Yes, okay.
Catherine, are you trying to say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just trying to find out if we have to even use the Columbus Day, and Governor Hochul did have a proclamation to recognize it, but I don't know whether it's in New York, but I don't know whether it's every year. So it'd be nice if we could find out. I'm trying to, but I can't read it. It's too small.
Okay.
But that
Um,
would be,
Do you need me to leave the calendar up?
I think
I
if
think
we're gonna
we've
wait
got it.
till
So
schedule
we got
the
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 12th
last
and
one,
the
we can just
19th.
let it go for
And
now.
I'll try to be there on the 12th.
So I will close
Okay.
that.
Well,
Is
we
that-
can check in next time and schedule further. Okay, so we're good for that, right?
Yep.
Alright. The next item is the review of the wastewater hamlet survey, which was shared more or less to allow anybody from the board who had any questions about it might want to, make suggestions if we need to change it or need. This has been reviewed by me and by David, and we went back and forth with a consultant who drafted it, and then this is where we are with it. And I think it's good to go if everybody is, thinks it's okay also.
Yeah, that's okay to me.
Yes? Okay, that's easy. That's good to go, David.
Thank you.
Then we have the Tomo Shibata, who is here, has proposed a planned development zone. She'd like us to consider the possibility of creating a planned development zone for her property, which is located on East Miller Road. And I asked David if he could, and I shared with you her sketch of what she wants to do, which looks like that. And I asked David if he could sort of put it in context, where the neighborhood is and stuff.
And I have a context map I can share before you get started. I gotta kick Janice off of screen sharing. All right.
There you go.
So this is a location map of, you can see the whole town of Danby in a little square here showing the portion of East Miller. And this is the zoom in of East Miller near Nelson Road. You can see a 4-acre parcel here, which is 360 East Miller, which is what Tomo has proposed for an 8-lot subdivision of half-acre lots is what she would like the town to consider a planned development zone for.
This is what, R1 or R2?
This is in the rural 2, so the zoning for this area is 1 lot per 10 acres. The previous zoning for this lot was 1 lot per 5 acres. It was in the low density residential zone before the rezoning this year. There was some conversation about maybe applying for a variance in 2019 to divide this in half into 2 lots, but I don't believe a variance was ever applied for. And there's been some conversation this year about wanting to approach the town board about a planned development zone. So we have questions about this location and the context map before we put up the sketch and let Tomo talk.
You can go back to sketch as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have that sketch, David, or do you want me to put it back up?
I sure do.
All right. Thanks.
So this is the sketch. There's an existing driveway on the lot, and Tomo is showing here these half-acre parcels along that driveway, which makes eight slightly less than half-acre parcels, using up all of the 4 acres.
So Tomo's here if she'd like to address the board as to why you think we should entertain this possibility.
Hello?
Yes,
Oh, can you hear me?
yes, we can.
Oh, great.
No, we can't.
First of all, first of all, like principally the town seems to be, the municipalities around the city of Ithaca seems to be gradually suburbanized. And therefore, my idea was to participate in that kind of trend, or I guess the need from the public. But then I did hear that some objections that the town is being suburbanized, but the town hopes to have some kind of rules or consistency or principle in the process of suburbanization. So like I would like to receive first the feedback as to what would be the objections to this kind of a proposal.
Did you hear details about this at a meeting, earlier meeting?
I don't recall having been spoken of earlier in the year. Did we?
A couple years.
Yeah.
No.
Well, David
I don't
mentioned,
wanna- I mean,
was it 2 years ago, there was a proposal here to create 2 lots here.
I mean, our zoning that we, spent a lot of time reviewing and changing. This area was not looked at as being something that the town was interested in suburbanizing. I'll just leave it at that right now. I mean, I look at PDZs as being something that the town decides, yes, this is what we want to have happen here, so we're gonna create a PDZ so that it can happen. And I don't think of this area as fitting that, for me anyway.
Could I ask on which ground this area has been considered as not the subject, not the area for suburbanization? What are the reasons?
I didn't catch what that.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you were saying.
Oh, why this area is not should not be suburbanized as opposed to other areas that should be suburbanized? I think I heard from Joel a little bit that suburbanization should happen around hamlets in downtown Danby, I guess.
We were hoping to have, the thought was that Danby would like to see more development around the hamlets, and not to, sprawl out in the outlying areas where we still have some open areas. We're losing a lot of open areas, and that's, I know there's development on that hill, but I don't know. Does anybody else have anything to say?
Well, I've been.
Yeah, well, I don't understand what you mean by losing open. What, pardon me? What do you mean by losing open areas? You don't want to see
open
fields.
areas where there's no human activity, building disruption,
Undeveloped, basically.
undeveloped.
Oh, I see. But shouldn't that be the area where it should be like more eco diversities and like more basically like a forest and so forth? I think I've seen the map that, what is that, the name of it? I do see that undeveloped areas should be preserved as well, but well, you would like to see that also, I believe, but the East Miller Road all the way up to Nelson Road intersection, that area is pretty kind of already developed. I see number of residential houses already built and quite lined up. So I don't, could you respond that what it seems to be the suburbanization is already happening in that area of East Mill Road?
Not to the extent that there's, you know, eight lots, 8 half-acre lots. I mean, we chose that area to have one lot for 10 acres for a reason. It's, you know, I mean, we could get into a discussion about why, but for myself personally, I mean, those fields are important habitat for birds. Besides just wanting to have some open space, and an open space isn't just woods, it's fields and meadows and places, you know, you're driving through and you say, oh, this is country. If there's 8 houses on that lot, that's no longer country. And I feel like we spent a lot of time looking at where we wanted development. And that is not an area I would pick to have any kind of a eight house development, or even 2 for that matter. It's 4 acres.
Right, I agree. I don't know whether you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I believe that area is one of the ones where the, I can't think of that bird that stays close to the ground.
The bobolink and the meadowlark.
Yeah, the bobolink, right, the
And the
bobolink.
hareros.
And the bird, the people who are looking into and protecting the some of the birds that are at risk have specifically noted that area as being valuable. The other thing is that I thought that our idea was that we would concentrate density like this in the core. So this isn't in the core, and it's not close to the core. And 8 houses is a lot of houses right there.
I want to know why there would be a planned development zone? Why would it even qualify for, is it just putting extra houses in? Is that all it is?
Well, that's what would enable there to be extra houses beyond what, essentially planned development zones are rezoning to enable something to happen.
But we had a lot of them before, and before, most of them were not appropriate for planned development zones. Why is this appropriate for a planned development zone?
I don't think it is, frankly, but
Right.
It's on the agenda because Tomo asked us to whether we'd be willing to consider it.
Then I want to know if it's appropriate for a planned development zone. David, do you have some feedback?
Sure. So for several reasons, I don't think it really would be. The first is that the code calls for any planned development zones to be at least 5 acres, and this is 4 acres. And that's kind of the town's first criteria for what they want to consider a planned development zone for. The second is that planned development zones should be a more creative way of implementing the town's comprehensive plan. And this proposal is kind of the opposite of what the comprehensive plan says the community wants. It's in an area where the comprehensive plan says we should be focusing on open space preservation. And it's basically bringing suburban sprawl to that area. So both because it doesn't meet the kind of basic criteria that the town said is where they would start considering planned development zones of being at least 5 acres and being a more creative way to achieve the town's comprehensive plan goals. It doesn't really seem like a good candidate for a planned development zone. I would not suggest it. I provided that feedback to the landowner, but they wanted to hear from the town board rather than from me. So that's why we're here.
And I did as well, but Toma wanted to see what the rest of the board felt about it, whether they'd be willing to consider it.
Considering the problems we had in the past with planned development zones, I think we should need to be very careful about just willy-nilly making additions, no matter what the reason is. And in this case, if it doesn't follow the requirements, I think we should not put in a planned development zone then.
Right, I agree.
What I couldn't really understand. So what are the difference between the previous planned developments? Some I see are creative, like the White Hawks or some others, but some others are simply suburbanization plan development. So what would be the difference between the prior plan developments that were not really creative per se, but only, I would say, part of suburbanization? And what would that difference would be between the ones that already done and my proposal?
In particular, the last planned development zone, there was a lot of them. And 1 or 2 years ago, most of them were eliminated as planned development zones because they did not follow the requirements.
Okay, but there are some planned development zones that were approved, and I see that on the map. I see them on the map.
Yeah,
There's still some left.
and some of them met these requirements, 5 acres in a creative way. Some of them were remaining because they were still being used and they were basically grandfathered in, even though it may have been a mistake to do it in the first place. But that doesn't mean we make the same mistake again.
Right.
What do you mean grandfathered way?
They were approved as a planned development zone. They did not necessarily meet all the expectations of a planned development zone, but they were still being used that way, so we didn't take it away from somebody that had already been approved. But those that were not being used, they were all eliminated, and there was quite a few that were eliminated.
I think I can say that the planned development zones that are essential subdivisions predate the adoption by the town of subdivision regulations. So there was no mechanism before to create subdivisions without using the planned development zone process. That's no longer the case. We now have subdivision regulations, and we have zoning that dictates where what can go and at what density. And this kind of density is what we would like to see happen in the hamlets, particularly near the core, but not out in the periphery where it's basically sprawl.
I see. So some of the planned developments are kind of what you would say as a sprawl, like doesn't seem to be anywhere close to hamlets, but those are basically what done before. I couldn't really understand. It was a mistake, or at least somebody said it was kind of like a mistake and that they wouldn't want to repeat it again, kind of thing. But and also some regulations weren't enacted at the time. Is that why you?
I mean, it's simple for me. I mean, other people have their own ideas, but it's just too dense, too much development on too small a lot.
Yes.
In an area where we don't want to see development.
Right.
Too dense.
And we did the zoning, we worked hard all last year to work on things like this so that this would stay, so we would have open and protected. And that's why we really worked hard to encourage density in the core. This is nowhere near the core. Sorry, it's not.
Okay, and all right, and so the planned developments that were took place that are not really near the core at all. They were basically, you were saying that they're a mistake.
They're not that far from the core, actually, but they predate the current zoning,
And the current zoning says PDZ zone minimum of 5 acres.
which has also always been the case, actually.
Which means, in that case, it's the Yes, in that case,
You
it's not a
could-
change,
we
so I
could-
see no reason
We
to
could
change
waive
the
that if we thought
requirement.
it was a really cool proposal, but it's not.
But it has to be a more creative way to implement a comprehensive plan.
Exactly.
Both of those have to be possibilities, and this does not apply that I can see.
I think we're in agreement that it does not read like something we would want to see happen there as an alternative to what is currently allowed.
And this
Right.
whole, just to put in 8 houses, there's nothing special about it,
No, well, not even that. I mean, even if we were willing to entertain it, the health department wouldn't allow half-acre lots in this area anyway.
right.
But but we're not willing to entertain it. I think we can safely say. Yeah. So
I guess, okay,
we need to move on.
well, you said,
Yeah.
pardon me?
I think that it's fair to say that the town board has told you now, again, that this area is not appropriate for 8 houses or 8 half-acre lots in the rural area, in the low density, not in the core. The answer is no. It doesn't fit.
And you said, well, predate the zoning of current zoning code or like the ones prior to
So
that?
there's no point in belaboring this, and we need to move
Right.
on with the agenda.
Okay.
That's
So-
right. Move on.
So Janice, could you use the mute that I can't? Thank you.
Got it.
Okay, next item. We already authorized the purchase of the 3 trucks. And we even approved the financing mechanism.
Yep.
The bank came back with here's the resolution you should have passed for us to use in the package. So I simply put this on as we need to
Official.
pass this version of the resolution to make them happy.
Okay.
I move we pass the resolution that the bank wants.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Not hearing any. Janice?
Yes, Connors,
Aye.
Hunter, thank you.
Yes,
Woodworth,
Yes.
Gagnon,
Yes. Okay, so that will be executed tomorrow. They have to have it, we have to have it done by the 5th, which is 6th rather. So I got one more day to get it done. Yeah. All right.
We've got, the sexual harassment policy.
Right, got that.
And
Soon the cannabis.
We got the
Can you
budget.
say that again? What policy is on?
Sorry, the cannabis and the sexual harassment policy.
Sexual harassment, okay, thank you.
Should ask David whether he thinks they can get together for next time.
Oh, well, we could always take it off.
True.
I'll do my best.
All right. Put it on.
And
the
then I
budget.
also,
All these budget things.
Yep.
yeah, I have scheduled a budget meeting to review and present final budget for public hearing.
Right. There's something else in my mind, but I can't remember what it was. There will be more. I can count on it. You can count on it.
Yeah.
But those are things that for sure.
But in the, we can try and
Yep.
keep it small so that we can.
Right, because we have a
Talk
lot
about
to
the
do. The budget stuff's gonna take a
Yeah.
while. Right. Okay. That is the agenda.
What we've done in the past is, we met at 7, so we'd start at 6 and we'd have a whole hour to just do budget stuff before each meeting in this month. So we should try not to
Right.
put anything in the.
Keep it light.
Yeah.
It's light so far, but these things have a way of mushrooming. That is the agenda.
Okay.
And meeting is adjourned.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. I will stop the Zoom.
Okay.
Night.